This is FYI on your TV. I'm Kathy Botham. I have got Bobby Jo Craig with me. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
You're here to talk about your story and to continue the Be a Donor. You've gone through an awful thing just in March too. Your husband Chris passed away. Can you talk a little bit about his story?
Yeah, so he was diagnosed with a rare liver disease called primary sclerosing cholangitis when he was a teenager. For the most part, it had been in remission. He had few symptoms here and there, but within the last year, it came on pretty strong and fast. By the time he got to a specialist and got the confirmation that he needed a transplant, that was in September of last year. It took 2 months to get on to the organ donation registry. So we got confirmation on December 23rd that he was eligible to have the transplant. From there we started, my son actually tried to do the living donor. He went through the process and we learned that he had 3 bile ducts, so he wasn't able to donate his liver to him or to anyone for that matter. So from there we started fundraising and campaigning, trying to find a living donor for him, as the wait list is much shorter with a living donation. We had numerous people try, and numerous even people that we didn't know were reaching out to me wanting to help. And
you could be a living donor.
Yes, and which is very important because it does shorten the wait list for waiting for an organ. So we had numerous people, but from what we've been told, most of them were ruled out for either mental or physical problems, right? There's quite a list of criteria that you have to meet in order to be a living donor. So he was in and out of hospital here locally, Perth and Smiths Falls, and then eventually went to Toronto in February, which by then they had a deceased liver for him, but when they did the scans to make sure he was healthy enough to have it, they found a pancreatitis. So from there he was fighting the pancreatitis, numerous infections and other complications, bleeding, lots of transfusions, and eventually his kidneys failed, and that's what took him from us.
And that was in March this year?
And that was in March, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Now you are here to continue his legacy, with the Be a Donor and everything. And I've got to say, if nobody knew the Craig family before your family event here, we all got to know you very well. The community got together and we rallied, and there was fundraisers, and there was just even more awareness, about liver donation and living donors and everything like that too. We got to know you very well, and the fact that you shared your story with us, it meant so much to us too, because
yeah, I couldn't ask for a better community to have this happen in. Everybody did rally around us, both trying to help financially, and people, like I said, that we didn't even know that were trying to donate their livers and things like that. And I think the awareness part is where I need to keep focused now, because not that I think that it might have saved him, but I'm hoping that it'll save somebody else.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's what we're here to talk about today too, is some awareness about becoming a donor, but what happens when you are a donor. What and it's something I've learned too, and we've got a good friend, Jackie Bowick, and her and I have been doing this Be a Donor for many, many years, and I'm learning things from you this year that I didn't know before too. And one of them is the fact that if you are a donor and you are in the hospital and you've had a tragic event, you have to make the hospital aware beforehand. It's not, I'm going to let you tell the story because you do it much better than I do, because I'm just learning too.
So one thing is, obviously it's important to be registered as a donor and talk to your family, because your family can override your decision upon your passing. And the other thing is that the hospital staff is not aware that you're a donor. They don't have the capabilities to be able to see that you're a registered donor. So in our area especially, I've learned that upon your passing, the hospital staff then communicates to Trillium, which then checks to see if you're a donor. And it has to be within an hour of death. The thing with that is, by the time the Trillium is contacted by the hospital staff, it's too late to use the organs. So at that time, it's only tissue donation, which is equally important. But there's a lot of organs that aren't getting donated because of the way that the policies work and that the community is not aware of. So if you are in the hospital or a family member is in the hospital and you know that their death is pending, then my advice is to go ahead and tell the hospital staff that they're an organ donor so the staff can contact Trillium ahead of time. That way Trillium can get involved, talk to the family, and then they can hopefully see if they're registered for one, see if their organs are going to be viable, and then they can set up like the next steps in order for that to be able to pursue.
Absolutely. So you need a voice at the hospital as well too. And we've always said that you let your family know you want to be a donor.
Yeah.
So that's all in part of this. Is that if you know your family member wants to be a donor, you've got to tell them at the hospital.
Yeah.
At that moment.
Yeah, because the hospital staff is not allowed to ask you if you want to be an organ donor. They're not allowed to initiate the conversation at all. So you need to advocate for yourself and you need to advocate for your loved ones if that's something that's important to you or them, that you want to be an organ donor so that the process can be started ahead of time. Obviously, there's going to be still things that they have to make sure that your organs are viable for donation, and the patient's likely going to be transferred out of hospital to another hospital where there's capabilities, because again, unfortunately, our hospital doesn't have the capabilities for organ donation or to keep the organs viable.
And one more reason, have these conversations beforehand, because those are hard decisions to make.
Yeah.
When you're in the moment.
Exactly, and that's the hard part, is that most people in that situation aren't going to think of that. And I'm hoping that by at least putting it in someone's head that they may think of that ahead of time before it's too late for those organs to be viable. And also, knowledge is power. You need to know what you're in for, like what your family's in for, things like that. So I advise people to educate themselves. Contact Trillium now if you want to. Get the answers that you need, or ask the questions. That's what I've been doing, and I think that that's the biggest thing, is just for people to be aware, because the community is not aware of how things work.
That's right. And if you go on to the Trillium website or the Be a Donor will get you to the Trillium website as well too. Be a Donor's got a great website because they ask you the questions that you're thinking about.
Yes.
Or maybe you haven't even thought about.
That's right.
And they'll give you the answers too. So
yeah.
You've been going around, you were at a baseball tournament too, and you had all your pamphlets and everything to share some information about becoming a donor as well. So.
Yes, and that again is still important.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely need to be registered to be a donor, but you need to know how to advocate for yourself on top of that. And even the Living Donor program, if anyone's interested in doing the Living Donor program, you can go through Be a Donor and find information there, or you can go through UHN Living Donor portal there, and it has all the information for you, because again, living donation shortens the wait list, and it also takes off people the wait list, so that when a deceased organ comes, there's less people waiting.
That's right. Now, April is Organ Donation Awareness Month, but when you've gone through something like this, every month
is Organ
Donation Awareness Month. So
yes.
Have you got plans to be anywhere else?
I haven't got anything firmed up yet, but I am looking at going into maybe some hockey tournaments, things like that, and having my table set up. We are looking at still doing the horseshoe tournament that we did last year, but it'll be a memorial now, but we'll have a lot of awareness information there. I'm hoping to have a ball tournament next year. Just things weren't really, everything happened so quickly this year to be able to do that kind of stuff.
It's still so fresh for you, my goodness, for you to be out and doing this already too. Good on you, my goodness.
Yeah.
He's very proud of you, for sure. If I could mention one more thing too, there's a couple of our provinces out east, I think it's Nova Scotia and New Brunswick.
Yeah.
When you are born, you are a registered donor. You are registered as a donor.
As of 19, yeah.
As of 19?
Yeah.
As of 19, okay. And unless you don't want to be a donor, that's when you register.
That's right.
And that is something I know a lot of people would like to see in Ontario as well.
So that's my end goal. It's going to take a long time to get there. I'm trying to find more information on how they went about that. But yes, I I think that when, instead of opting in to be a donor, you'll have a lot more people obviously registered because you have to opt out.
Right.
Because some people just don't think of it, right, until it hits you close to home,
Right.
and then you think, oh, I want to register. Whereas this way, if you're already automatically registered donor, there's a lot less, I think, sticky tape.
Right.
And a lot more people's lives will be saved.
Right, right. And I wrote down some statistics too. Be a donor. There's 1,400 Ontarios currently waiting for an organ transplant. 35% of Ontarians are registered, but 12.6 million have not registered.
Yeah.
So if it was the other way around.
And 90% of people agree with organ donation.
Yes, they do.
just don't register.
They don't register.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So for more information, they can check Be a Donor.
Yeah.
And Be a Donor will actually get you to the Trillium website, but we're going to be looking for you at local events, and you're going to be sharing your story and get more information out about being a donor. So
Yeah.
thank you very much for being here.
Thank
Again, fresh on Chris's passing just in March. I understand you buried him on your wedding anniversary?
Yes, I did.
Yes, you
June
did.
15th, we would have been married 21 years, and I did the burial on that day, so that it was that still special tie. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness, bless your heart. Thank you very much for sharing your story, and Coral and Connor too. I know they were out there an awful lot, and like I say, if we didn't know you before this incident with you and your husband, we got to know you well in our community now. So thank you very much for sharing your story, and we'll have you come back here, maybe even before April, but for sure in April.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing.